So I'm joined with my colleagues from the provincial government of PEI to talk about what they can do, and my colleagues from Holland College and UPEI to talk about how to engage with students. But I'm going to talk a little bit about our student wage subsidy program, which is a federal program called WIL Digital. That's what I will be talking to you about for the next little while. So first of all, if there's only one thing that you take away from my presentation today, it is what's on this slide, and that we have some awesome subsidies available to support students. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we have coming up, but I just want you to notice that there are some substantial subsidies available out there that can add some great value to you as an organization. So in terms of what is the WIL Digital subsidy, so the federal government has a program called the Student Work Placement Program. So it is, WIL Digital is supported by that federal program, and ICTC is one of the funding partners that distributes the funds that come from the federal government. And it's there to help employers hire students but the ultimate goal is to get those students into meaningful work experiences and make them more hireable and more valuable when they graduate. So that's the goal. So just a little bit about ICTC, just to put us into context. We're a not-for-profit organization. We're headquartered in Ottawa. We've been around for many years, originally as a sector council, and then in 2006 we became ICTC, the Information and Communications Technology Council. And we do a lot of research relevant to technology in the labor market. And we also have many capacity building initiatives. And you can visit our website to see what they all are. But the one I'm going to talk about today is our WIL Digital program, which is the student wage subsidy program. So going back to that original slide, which talked about that subsidy this winter, and for the past year has been up to 75, or has been 75%. This just kind of puts it into context. So if you were hiring a student and paying them $15 an hour for a full-time position for a traditional 16-week work term, then without a subsidy, $8,400. With our subsidy, it would have been $3.75 an hour. So that's pretty decent for a student talent, considering that those students could range from, they could be a PhD student, a master's student, they could be a college student, they could be an undergrad student, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But if there are any startups in the audience today, thank you for joining us. And I just want to quickly put this program into context from a startup perspective and for any small business perspective. So Open Ocean Robotics was a startup in 2018. And they're based out in the West Coast, and they were working out of Judy Angus's garage, and this is Judy over here. They're working out of Judy and her husband's garage to try and get their autonomous ocean vehicles up and running. They needed some electrical engineering help. They approached ICTC for some subsidies for a couple of students, got some provincial support from the government of BC, engaged with some third-year engineering co-op students, and lo and behold, became the success story that you see that they have been here. So that was the value that those students brought into Open Ocean Robotics. And just so you can see, so this fellow right here, he was one of those students. He is now a full-time employee, which is obviously the goal of the program. And this gentleman here was one of the other ones who is currently still an undergrad electrical engineering student, but very likely will become a full-time hire when he graduates. So a great program that supported a startup. And I wanted to throw that out there because it is important to see that students can add value in many, many ways. So just a bit of a summary as to what we did this past year in 2020, supporting Atlantic Canadian employers and students. More than 350 students were supported in this region. I would love to make that 1,000 students next year, because that is federal money coming into the region to support the local labor market and the local ecosystem here. As you can see, looking here, students worked all over the place. They worked in Charlottetown, they worked in Halifax, they worked in different provinces, both in Atlantic and around the country. So, it's a great program that does allow employers to bring on students to add value to their business. And this quote over here, this was actually a Nova Scotia employer who happened to bring in a student And he was extremely satisfied, as you can tell, with the top quality work that was being done by a highly engaged student who was focused on delivery. I don't think you can say any more than that. So in terms of our subsidy that we bring to the table, so going back to that first slide, 75% of wages up to a maximum of $7,500 for eligible students. And that subsidy was as a result of COVID-19. It was the federal government's response to that, made it a little bit more, more money on the table to encourage and make it easier for employers to bring on students. That sadly ends at the end of April. There is a little bit of funding available for winter term still. So if you have a student that you've hired or are planning on hiring in January or February, then apply ASAP, and you'll have the details in a moment. But coming up in the summer, we still have, we'll have plenty of funding available because our funding gets renewed at the beginning of the federal fiscal year. We offer subsidies year-round, and you can apply anytime. There's no window for you to apply. And our subsidies in summer and beyond will be up to $7,000 per student. And that's if the student falls within what ICTC classifies as an underrepresented group. And we can dig into that in more detail a little later during the Q&A, or you can go visit our website to find out what that entails. And then for all others that are well represented, 50% of wages can be covered up to $5,000. So if that is of interest, some federal money coming to the table to help you bring on this great student talent that we have in Atlantic and in PEI, then this is how you qualify. You would just need to offer a student a role, and it could be full-time or part-time role, in some position that is relevant to the digital economy. So that means that they're using some software tools, maybe it's an accounting package, maybe it's, they're doing some data analysis, and those roles can also be business development roles, digital marketing roles, technical sales. And what I'll do in a few moments is just have a quick look at some of those roles that we were able to support this year or this past year in Atlantic Canada. So in terms of the employer, what are your eligibility requirements? You do need to be registered as a Canadian business. So at the provincial level, the federal level, you can be a for-profit or a not-for-profit organization. And one biggie, and I've highlighted it there, you do need to hire that student as an employee, not as a contractor. And so that brings them onto your payroll, and we will be asking you for payroll records at a later point in the process, just so we can confirm how much of a subsidy we need to provide for you. In terms of the position, as I mentioned, it needs to be relevant to the digital economy, and that's pretty easy these days. If they're using any kind of tools out there, if they're creating digital content, posting it on social media, then that would be a relevant position. And as I said, it could be a full-time or a part-time role. And so many people were bringing on a student full-time for one work term, and then when that student went back to classes, they kept them on part-time to help continue with what they started during their full-time position. And one thing which has been kept from the COVID-19 responses from the federal government is to support both in-office, in-workplace positions and remote positions as well, which I think is a great thing. And you can visit our website for the full suite of eligibility, but that pretty much covers it, what I talked about there. Now, from a student perspective, this is really exciting. Those students can be full-time or part-time students, so they don't have to be full-time, which is great. They do not have to be co-op students either. And this does not have to be a position that is tied to their academic requirements. Our program is very, very flexible. And as you can see, we can have a full range of students, from college students, they could be master's students, undergrads, PhD, and they can come from any background. We had a great example of someone in journalism who was hired in a digital marketing role for an augmented reality company in New Brunswick. So, a arts background going into a tech role in a tech company, fantastic. That's what we like to see. And then they do need to be legally entitled to work in Canada, but sadly, we are not able to support international students. We can't do that directly with this program. But if they are Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or refugees, then we absolutely can provide them with a subsidy, provided that the role is relevant to the digital economy. And interestingly, there is no age limit on this program either. So that's an important consideration. So just briefly, in terms of the roles that we can support, so your traditional IT roles, developer, software tester, app developer, web developer, all those ones that you would normally associate with IT, and the normal engineering roles that you would associate with engineering co-ops, because they're all using software tools. But I'm going to go through just a few slides here, and I do have a number of them, and I'm not going to talk to each one of these, but the positions I've bolded are what I would consider to be non-traditional IT roles, like a customer success intern, right, is using tools to record engagement with customers. They may be doing surveys, that sort of thing. And so you can see that if you were doing a pivot to e-commerce, or you were trying to enhance your digital presence, then students have been able to help in a wide range of roles. And one that I think is interesting is greenhouse intern. Well, if you think about a greenhouse today, that's a pretty high-tech environment, and there's lots of sensors and data to be monitoring and that sort of thing. So I wanted to go through these just briefly, because it does give you a good sense of the kind of things that we can work with from a role position, and even from a business perspective, like an accountant or like someone doing payroll. Those are using tools that are relevant to the digital economy. And I think the real key, and I know I keep on repeating myself here, but it's very important that if you can see relevance to digital economy, then highly likely we can support that for you. So any other position relevant to the digital economy. So it is not limited to IT roles by any means whatsoever. So in terms of another value add that we bring to the table, if you have a student who is receiving our subsidy, then we are offering you as an employer the opportunity to register that student in one of our micro-credential programs as part of the work term. And you can see those 5 areas that we're offering micro-credentialing in. So a great example is that if you were pivoting to e-commerce and you wanted to have that student get registered into that intelligent retail and commerce micro-credential, then they would have 6 weeks of learning. It's about a 30 to 40 minute self-paced learning each week for 6 weeks. Some national discussions with their peers, their other students that are registered in that, and then some subject matter experts brought in to talk about different aspects of that area. And they, in turn, bring that knowledge and learning back to your workplace. So it's a win-win for everybody. As an employer, you're engaging a student with some additional learning. They get a micro-credential at the end of that, and they bring that learning back to the workplace to make it a more valuable to you work experience. So that's something else that ICTC has put in place to make our WIL Digital program more valuable to everybody, students and employers. So by now, hopefully, I've got your attention. You're saying, how do I apply for this fantastic program? And the answer is, it's really easy. So what you'll do is that you will just click on the Apply Now button right here. Visit our website, either key in wil.digital into your URL window, or type in one of these 2 web addresses. This is the English one right here, and this is the French one right here. And click on Apply Now. When you click on Apply Now, it'll take you to our login page. If you have an account, log in. If you do not, register for the account, and then you can go in and follow through the steps. The steps are, and you can see over here, this is the page that you would see when you log in. We ask you one time to set up your business profile. Tell us about yourself, give us your banking information so we know where to put the money. And then for each student that you would like to get a subsidy for, then you just complete your application, putting in the position description, identifying the student, and then 7 easy steps. Submit your application, wait for you to get notified of the result, which is very, very likely going to be you're approved. And if not, we'll tell you why and what you need to do to be approved. Enter into the contract with us so that locks in the funding. Spend about half an hour or less putting together a learning plan with the student and yourself. And then halfway through the work term, spend about 5 minutes just completing a quick survey, make sure that you're getting what you expected and the student is getting what they expected. And then at the end, again, we ask you for a little bit more of an in-depth exit survey so that we can find out how's the program working for the employer community and how is the program working for the students. And then you submit your payroll information, and then after a period of 6 to 8 weeks, then you will get that money turning up in your account. So in summary, I truly believe that WIL Digital is a great program and that it's helping a lot of employers across the country. And my role is to help employers within Atlantic Canada. So we've seen that we get subsidies this coming summer and beyond, up to 70%, up to $7,000 per eligible student. And then I think there's several other benefits. So we get to help retain local talent in the region. And that's really important for Atlantic and very important for PEI. We get to develop future leaders. We help to shape them and to nurture them and give them opportunities to learn. They bring fresh ideas into your organization, particularly if they're registered in one of those micro-credentialing programs, but they bring current trends and current learning into the workplace. And also it's a great opportunity for you to identify who would be a great future employee. If you're a startup, that's critical, that the first employee or second employee hits the ground running, adds value, and that's always important. What better way to do it than to, I call it, test drive a student for 3 or 4 months. Let's see how they work, and you make a great connection. It's also an opportunity to give back to the community, and that's important these days because you're supporting students, you're giving them an opportunity to engage and make some money and continue their studies and add value to your organization. So that is what WIL Digital can do for you. This is my contact information. I would encourage all of you to go visit our website and reach out to me if I can help you in any way at all. And thank you for your time and attention. And I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Heather Carver from Skills PEI, who's now going to talk to you about all the great things that the province can do for you to support students. So I'm stopping sharing my screen and hopefully, Heather, you're all set.
I am. Can you hear me all right now?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Yes, Heather Carver. I'm with Skills PEI. Skills PEI is a division within the provincial government of PEI with the Department of Economic Growth and Tourism. Our mandate is to assist unemployed islanders gain full-time employment. I think that a couple of programs we have that would be of interest, certainly for graduates or students, is first and foremost our graduate mentorship program. And that is a program that is, it's developed to help employers create long-term employment opportunities they have to be unemployed recent post-secondary graduates. They have to be, if not graduating this year, I mean, they could have been a graduate in the last 5 years. And the big thing is, though, too, that we do look for them to be hopefully gainfully employed in an area that's in their field of study. And if you are looking at hiring a post-secondary graduate, we basically will subsidize the wages for 52 weeks. And as I say, it is something that we do have, I guess, a bit of a ceiling. We do have to have a minimum of $15 an hour for the wage rate and to a maximum of $20 an hour. So I guess the most we would subsidize would be that $10 an hour. We do encourage employers to certainly top wages up higher than that, and that certainly can do that. And also employers are responsible for the MERCs too, the mandatory employment related costs. And we also want to, have, I guess, that employer, they also have to submit to us along with the application process. There is a mentorship plan we do want to see. We want to see that, there is going to be somebody there that's, got the experience that will guide the student and, also be there to assist them. I mean, and initially, as in anything like this, there probably will be a bit more guidance required. But as we go on, hopefully throughout the 52 weeks, you're seeing that that's dissipating. And hopefully at that time, they're becoming a full-time employee that is really contributing to your labor force. And now for employers, this program is also opened 12 months of the year, not just kind of, when we first started it, it was something that was geared to kind of that April, May, June timeframe. In recent years, it has been expanded to be a 12-month program. And employers do have to be a registered business within PEI. And they do also have to have workers' comp. I know sometimes with new startup businesses that maybe have been working with just one person in them, workers' comp is not a requirement, but once you do have an employee employed with you, that is a requirement. So sometimes we do run into that as a bit of a stumbling block. And so once your application and your mentorship plan and your job description is submitted, we would take a look at it, and somebody would be in contact with you and discuss moving forward on it. Many times, we ask for the employer, of course, to seek out the graduate. It's not that we have many times we're getting employers now calling us in recent years asking if we have a list. We do not. We do have Work PEI, which is a job site where actually job seekers and employers can apply. So we do encourage people to be going to that site. But there is another requirement once you do decide on who the recent graduate is, that they would have to go and they would have to meet with a caseworker and sort of make sure that it is going to be a good fit. So there is a little bit of time involved and some paperwork. And once you submit the package and we will go through our process here, it usually takes, I guess, we usually ask for a couple of weeks from start to finish. And then we go from there. And as I said, what would happen is that we would probably do 2 payments. We would probably do one after the 26-week mark, and we would probably do a check-in just to see how things are going. And then we would probably do a payment. We would have you fill out a claim form and also provide payroll documentation. And then we would do a direct deposit and issue payment to you, and the same thing on the completion of the program. And there'll be a little bit more, just letting us know how the year went, and hopefully that the student is still going to be employed, and provide all of that information to us. And then we would do a final payment to the employer. And as I said, it's fairly been we have been running this program for quite some years now, and it's been quite successful. We've really seen it grow in recent years. We do have some funds, and again, set aside for international students. This is something we've been exploring and increasing our numbers the last couple of years. And I would be surprised this year if we do not increase the number of international student fundings positions that we also have. But as I said, certainly it is open to some international students. And as I said, it is, I think, has really shown we've had a fair bit of success with this, and we've had a lot of employers, I think, who have been extremely pleased. And we also have many of the graduates are using it as a bit of a marketing tool also when they're going out and making their cold calls on looking for employment. They, kind of will say that this is a program that possibly could be available. And the one thing that we will caution is that students do have to be unemployed. Or they could be maybe working part-time, and we would look at it. But if a student is already gainfully employed, unfortunately, we're not going to provide a subsidy to another private sector business to, I guess, poach that student away. So that is a bit, which it's funny in the last couple of years, just seeing how the labor force has been changing. We are seeing that happen sometimes, where before students seem to be really struggling and maybe didn't have work. Now we're finding that, you know, students sometimes do have a little bit more choices out there, which is great. But it is a valuable tool that they can certainly use in their toolbox too. So it can be both, but it is employer driven. That is kind of the starting point, is that we do have to receive an application from an employer with a valid position. So, and that program, as I say, is if you go to our website, to skillspei.com, you will see that the applications are there, and you do have to download them. Unfortunately, we're still working on getting fillable application forms, and especially during COVID, we're really trying to get this up and running. But it is, as it is right now, it is downloadable, and you would have to get it into us here at Skills PEI, but all that information is available on our website. And another program that may be of interest is for post-secondary students. And now that is for individuals. Again, this program has been running for some time through the provincial government. Last year, it was really expanded, and we took it over here at Skills PEI. It had been administered via another government department, but we have taken it over last year, and I'm assuming we'll be doing the same this year. It is one that, as I said, last year in particular, due to COVID, we really increased the wage subsidy for the private sector employers. We offered 75% of the wages, and as I said, the usually norm had been the 50%, but we did that last year due to COVID. I'm not sure, it has not gone through our Treasury Board approval as of yet, so I'm not 100% sure what's happening, but I feel sure it will definitely be there, at definitely the 50, maybe up to the 75 again. We also did provide 100% funding for not-for-profit last year with this program too, and we greatly increased the budget and number of placements. Wage rate is a wage rate that is again set every, usually April 1st by our Treasury Board. And it's kind of on an escalating scale where it goes so much, you know, for if you've just finished your high school, because in order to be eligible, students of course must have graduated from grade 12 and attended a post-secondary institution full-time, and also that they are returning as a full-time student in the fall. So it does base on the year of study that the students are in for the wage rate. But the wages have, you know, I would say an average last year of between that $15 and $16 an hour. We also did fund this program as I said, for a variation in weeks. We did some that were sort of a 12-week to 14. We did actually go as high as 14 to 18 weeks last summer, which also was new to our program. And I think it was, you know, met with a lot of success. And we had a huge uptake in this last year with the new changes that were introduced to it. And again, in order to apply, it would be through our website again, and again, a registered private sector business. Now, eligible students on this, as I say, had to have graduated, and they do have to be a resident of PEI and legally authorized to work in Canada. So that's not to say we have many students, of course, that are residents of PEI, but they, you know, are attending institutions that are outside of the province, and that's, you know, perfectly fine. It's not an issue at all. And just the fact that they meet the qualifications of being a student. And it's a fairly, as I say, easy. There's not a deadline. I know sometimes people will get into some deadlines on some of the programs. I know the federal government program that is for the students, I believe, does have a deadline. Ours has been pretty much fairly flexible, but we often start out with a deadline of saying maybe the end of April or into May. So it's much later than the jobs, as I say, the student job through the federal government. And normally, even if we have some employer that is a bit late getting it in, we always tell them, encourage them to still submit an application, and you know, we will take a look at it. And if it's for a job that we feel is really going to help a student gain some valuable work experience, you know, we're fairly flexible with it. So those are our two programs that we have. And just something else I probably should have mentioned on the post-secondary student program. Students do not technically have to apply. It's an employer application. Students, but what we do encourage students to do too is to register on the Work PEI site, and to certainly register that you are there and that you're, have created a job seeker account. And that's what many times that we take a look at that. And sometimes some of the positions too, the post-secondary, the employers, we have been encouraging them, once they make application and are approved, to also register on Work PEI and to post the jobs there. So it is a valuable source. So I think that is pretty much the two programs that we have through the province. And I'm now going to turn it over. I believe Craig Daphne from Holland College is next on the agenda. I do also want to just mention, I do have to maybe leave the meeting at 11 o'clock. I do have another meeting to attend. So just do want to, we were a little late starting, unfortunately, and I will have to leave at the 11. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Heather. This is Craig. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Tim. Just going to share my presentation here. Just want to double check. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And are you seeing it in full screen?
No, it's it's as far as like presentation, you mean? Now I am. Now
okay.
It's like
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, everyone. My name is Craig Dauphiney. I'm the program manager for business, tourism, and sport and leisure at Holland College, and happy to be here to represent Holland College as a whole, to talk to you a little bit more about Holland College, and I'll highlight a few of our programs and kind of speak to some of the benefits of providing OJT or work integrated learning opportunities to our students. And we'll end the presentation with some information and contact information on how to kind of get in touch with us. I'm sure you're all quite familiar with Holland College. We are really kind of PEI's community college. We have over 2,500 full and part-time students across campuses all across PEI in more than 60 programs. And really, our focus is on skills-based training and hands-on experience. And more than 50 of our programs at the college include some type of work integrated learning component. And it depends really on the program, how that is formatted and what the requirements are. And I will, as I said, highlight a few of those programs. I think one of the biggest or really kind of attractive part of the WIL wage subsidy is that the students or the OJT or WIL placement does not need to be tied to academic requirements. And so regardless of whether the student has a work integrated learning requirement within their program or not, essentially as business owners, you have a pool of 2,500 or more students to draw from when seeking talent for your OJT opportunities. These are just a few, and I've chosen and kind of highlighted or picked out these programs specifically to kind of draw attention to them. However, as I said, more than 50 of our 60 plus programs do have some type of WIL component. But again, here are some that I've specifically kind of pulled out, which I think are very attractive. Our accounting technology program, computer information systems and computer networking technology, electronics engineering technology, tourism and travel, marketing and advertising. And as I said, I'm going to take a few minutes just to specifically kind of highlight a couple. And the reason I've chosen these few is that they are within my department. I'll take advantage of the fact that I have an audience and I'm able to kind of speak a little bit more in depth to these programs that I'm highlighting. However, again, there are really a multitude of programs and student talent across the college and across our campuses. One of the, or actually the largest program here at Holland College is our Business Administration 2-year diploma program. Essentially, our training focuses on, foundational learning in business functions and how they work together, and business communication skills, and gives students really a firm grasp of effective business practices. We have close to 100 students in each in first year and 100 students in second year of our business administration program. And some of the courses that they take include human resource management and management information systems, business plan development, digital sales and marketing. And the requirement of the business administration program is that students complete a 5-week on-the-job training term at the end of the student's second year, and that is coming up. The OJT term, or the 5-week term, starts the last week of March and the full month of April, and so we have been busy over the last number of months liaising between organizations and employers and students to match them up with OJT opportunities. As I said, we've got close to 100 second-year students. Many of them have found positions, but we still have students looking for OJT placements. And I'll provide a contact person's name at the end of the presentation if you are interested in talking a little bit further about our business admin students and some of the skills and talent they can bring to your organization. A couple others that I'm going to just quickly touch on are these 3 here: our marketing and advertising management program, our tourism and travel management and events coordinator program, and our sport and rec management or kinesiology program. I've highlighted a few courses. Obviously, these are not all of them. These are just a quick sample of some of the types of courses that our students are that are included in the program. And these particular programs have a slightly different format with regards to their WIL component. Students in these programs are required to complete 150 or more hours working in industry during their time at Holland College. There is no set kind of OJT term like business administration. Again, students have there are 2 years to gather up to 150 or more hours. Many students kind of do this through part-time jobs, through summer jobs, or through kind of short periods of time working with organizations, and that add up to their required 150 hours. So slightly different format, but still quite a large component with regards to work integrated learning. Really, the island, we like to think of the island as our classroom, and I know Tim kind of buzzed through some of these benefits, but I also would like to, from my perspective, share what I feel some of the great opportunities that employers have. And really, by providing and partnering with our programs to provide a work integrated learning opportunity, you have the opportunity to kind of test drive new talent and increase your business's visibility on our campus. Provide a low-cost option for reducing employee workload and increasing productivity, and giving back to the community, I think, is a really important one that Tim also highlighted, and enhancing the local workforce, closing the skills gap. And also, I think important to think about this as an opportunity to foster leadership skills in your current employees, and really kind of build on those skills as a whole. So how do you engage, or who do you get in touch with? If you're specifically interested in kind of learning a little bit more about the students in our business administration program, I'm going to direct you to Brenda Compton. She is a learning manager in the program, but also oversees our on-the-job training process for business administration. Her email address is here on the screen. If you're interested in kind of learning a little bit more about the students in our marketing and advertising, tourism and travel, or sport and leisure programs, you can contact me and I will direct you to that relevant person within that program. And my email address is here on the screen. And we also have with us, and actually she's attending the info session at the moment, Susan Shaw. Susan is the coordinator of internship, OJT, and graduation placements here at Holland College. And so if you do have kind of any other questions or interested in other programs or getting in touch with some of our other programs, or just questions in general about some of those requirements, then you can get in touch with Susan. Her email address is there on the screen. And I do believe I can forward this presentation to be shared with all the attendees so that you'll have all of this information also. That is, I'll just kind of stop sharing there. In the interest of time, I'm kind of breeze through, but that is kind of a high level explanation or of some of the programs and some of the opportunities we have here at Holland College. Happy to answer any questions at the end of the info session. And I believe now I'm passing it on to Megan McLean at UPEI.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the invite, and I'll share my screen here with you all as well. So my name is Megan McLean, and I am the Acting Director of Work Integrated Learning here at UPEI. And with that, also kind of hanged on to my original role, which is the Job Development Coordinator with our co-op program as well. Does everybody see my screen there?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right. Well, Tim and I have worked together a couple of times in securing some wage subsidy funding for some of the employers that hire our co-op students. So I will speak more specifically to co-op, but I know, I think I saw Wayne Simmons' name on the sidebar there as well. So he's with our School of Sustainable Design Engineering and could speak to that as well, as they don't have a co-op program. But I'll speak more to the co-op programs that we do have right here on campus at UPEI. So the co-op program provides the opportunity for students and employers to engage and those students to take what they're learning in the classroom and apply it in the workplace. And it's a great benefits as the other gentlemen have mentioned as well. So I won't harp on those anymore because they're very similar. But the one thing that I'll add to it is certainly in the climate that we're working within right now. Our technical skills students, so our CS, computer science students, our analytics students, and some of our business students are in pretty high demand. So what we found is that a lot of our employers are trying to get them in for co-op work terms so that they can get their claws in them to keep them after graduation, because that market to get a graduate after is pretty tough. So this is an opportunity to get in with a student early and build those ties. So we do have, most relevant for this funding would be our computer science and our business and our analytics students. So we have over 100 students in those programs right now. The analytics program is new, but we've seen a great increase in computer science over the last even 2 years. That program has almost doubled. So those are just co-op students. There's students beyond that as well, but those are co-op numbers. So a co-op work term is a minimum of 14 weeks in length. They begin on the semester start dates of January, May, and September each year. Work terms must be full-time. So those are between 32 and 40 hours per week, and they do need to be paid. So that's where this funding does come in quite handy. And finally, the student must be mentored and evaluated. So these are students, they're not ready to be plugged in and left on their own, plug and play in an organization. So we do require that there be a mentor or supervisor in place to support their students as they integrate them into the work that they'll be doing. And that mentor also becomes then our contact person that we then liaise with throughout the course of the work term. And then they provide that end of term evaluation for the student and for us as well, but have that feedback to the student, as that's a really critical component to the whole learning. So our hiring process, so we facilitate the hiring process here through the co-op office. Our recruitment begins about 4 months in advance. So for example, I've just begun in the last week or two sourcing opportunities for our students for summer 2021, as that's the next term that our students will be available for. The process starts with the employer providing us with a job description. That's posted then on our internal platform where the students can view and apply for those positions. And then after the closing date, we share those applications with the employer where they screen and select who they'd like to interview. We can help set up those interviews for the employer as well. The employer then selects who they'd like to offer the position to. So we have no say in any of that. It's purely up to the employer who that best candidate is for them. And if there's not a candidate, that's okay too. There's no obligation to hire whenever you do post that position. So once you've identified the student that you'd like to offer that position to, the employer then prepares an offer, shares it with our co-op office here, and then we share that with the student. The student will then have 24 hours to accept or decline that position. Typically declines don't happen as we encourage students just to apply for those positions that they're interested in so that we don't disappoint on the employer end as well. And then after that, the work term begins and the employment relationship carries out on the payroll end and employment end as it would for any other employment relationship. During the work term itself, the co-op office will check in early on to make sure everything's off to a good start. And then we'll schedule a more formal midpoint check-in where that would be a meeting. We've been doing those virtually with the student and the employer, and then someone from the co-op office to check in on the work that the student's doing, how they're getting along, and to address any concerns or questions that the employer or the student may have. So we do try to make it as easy as possible for the employer in terms of hiring. And once the work term begins, we do try to back away as much as we can, but of course, always there to help out and assist if there's any kind of concerns or anything that come up during the term. So the next step, if you are interested and do want to hire in the future, there's kind of two avenues that you can take. The first is that if you do have the details of the role that you're interested in hiring for, you can submit that via our online job posting template that we have linked to there. But if you're still in the early stages and you don't know what that might look like yet, and even whether or not it would be suitable for a student, you can always reach out and give me a call or send me an email, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with you about how that works. And the way that Tim and I have worked together in the past is that if I've identified an employer who does need that funding, I connect them in with Tim and that application process so that they can go to ICTC together to obtain that funding. So I will kind of the asterisk on this is that if you do want to hire through the ICTC program, typically we will put on the job posting that it's only open to Canadian residents so that it does align with that funding. We have a number of international students as well, which does work with the Skills PEI funding. So depending on who you're looking for there, we can kind of direct in different funding avenues as well. So that's UPEI and the co-op program, but I'll point out Wayne on the side there as well, that if you do have questions on the engineering side, he'd be your best bet to answer those as well. So I'll stop sharing my screen and happy to answer any questions that you might have as well.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I think I believe all the questions have been answered that were posed in the chat or the Q&A, unless there's any others that anybody wants to send in right now. But otherwise, it looks like all the questions have been answered. I will make sure to get everybody's contact information and any slides that are shared with me sent out to everybody that registered to attend, along with the recording of this. Tim, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Or Megan or anybody?
Just a couple of things, Molly, if I may.
Yeah.
So first of all, thanks to Startup Zone for the opportunity to get the message out, and thank you to everybody who attended. A couple of comments. So hopefully saw the answers in the chat. So our program does not cover, it's not based on the mandatory employer required contributions, the so-called MERC. So that's not included in our subsidy calculation. I did want to also mention that so we have flexible work term durations. If I wasn't clear on that, so certainly we can support a 6-week work term or up to a full co-op work term. So that's all good. And we do have a year-round application process. So if you decided that you wanted to bring someone on board starting in March for a couple of months, then you can apply, just prior to them starting. We'd like you to have everything done before they start, but we're very, very flexible. So, if things don't work out quite the way that you would like to have them work out, give me a call. I'm sure we can work something out. And please, I do encourage everybody to reach out, whether it's through LinkedIn or through email. Let's connect. Happy to help. If I can answer any questions, please do that. And thanks to my colleagues for a great overview and incredible skill set that we have right in PEI. So, let's bring them into the workplace, let the federal and provincial programs provide some support, and let's make a difference. And that's it. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our panelists and then all of the people that attended as well. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties, but thank you to everybody for being so flexible. I think there's a lot of good information shared today, so I will make sure to get all of this sent out to everybody that registered. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a great rest of the week.